Yeah, even when you're on the outside.
Yeah, so that's kind of, and that's where I think that 3 inches comes in really handy when, you know, she was 3 inches, she had the littler fingers, and she had a...
Reproduction.
Getting the lock done. I mean, that guy, he didn't, I mean...
He gave up pretty quickly. A long time to get that lock done. Yeah. But she finally succeeded.
She did.
Whereas the guy gave up kind of quickly, I thought.
Which is okay. I feel okay about you saying...
No, I'm not blaming him. I would have...
That was brought up in that he did this kind of thing was that the landlords of Gareth that had been
those things for you guys to look at.
Said that years ago, an unspecified amount of years ago, they were awoken by Gareth yelling, and finally, you know, were so tired of him yelling that they went upstairs to his apartment and opened the door.
It was a rented room, I thought.
I thought it was the apartment that he was renting.
Okay,
that 10-year...
I'm not entirely clear.
I thought it was an apartment too, but I could be wrong.
Okay, the way it was described, I got the impression he was renting a room.
We're going to have those like on our website, I think. Which is Thinking Sideways.
Went in and they found him tied to the bed.
And they told him to shut up and go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And they went back to sleep. Sure. Yeah.
I was just practicing. I promised to never do it again. And as far as we know, he never did it again. I mean, it sounds like he never got stuck tied to the bed again. So
he was able to undo it.
Yeah. I feel like that was the first time that he did it successfully. Yes, you know, for me, I could kind of see the argument of... Okay, so one of the things we kind of glossed over was Gareth was going to work for MI6. Is the thing. Well, but he hated, so he hated working for MI6. He said it was like this like total like showmanship, my horse is bigger than yours kind of like bro-y game. He hated it.
My horse is bigger than yours? I know what you mean, but that's a funny way to say it.
But, you know, my car is faster than yours. I don't know. My watch is more expensive. Like, it was just one-upsmanship, and he really just hated it. But
my Q is in uppercase, and yours is not.
That's what you...
No, I was about to trend that direction.
Going on there was... Really what I was kind of thinking about was that, like, maybe...
Yeah. All right, so, anyway...
Weird to go on active duty... Even though that's what MI6 was, and it turned out like
active duty is in field work?
Yeah, field work.
Okay, so not analyzing.
I did kind of get this idea that maybe he was trying to be a real spy and like had seen, you know, in like a Bond movie or some like weird MI. Oh yeah, there was a woman with an 8-inch tall skirt. So he was just practicing and accidentally killed himself. But
it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
The act of locking yourself into a bag under your own willpower makes no sense.
I agree.
I cannot come with any idea of logically.
That's
or even
why
illogically.
That's why the sexual sort of deviancy angle is the most realistic to me, because with an 8-inch tall. The Soviets, say, for example, you know, they're not going to put you in a bag or tie you up in some weird thing. They're just going to toss you in a cell and then trade you back at first opportunity for another one of theirs.
Right. Or torture you until you reveal all of the secrets that you know, because he might have known some secrets.
8-inch. So, an 8-inch. Really see the sexual angle of this whole thing, really.
Right, but on the other hand, I feel like that's such a like cop out, you know, that it's so easy for the... He was a total deviant, and he was like, well, this weird sex guy, and and so it made it easier.
Sometimes the evidence leads to weird truths.
No, well, I think the sense I kind of get is that it was almost this like smear campaign, because I think as a general,
said that, yeah.
Well, in general, I think that it's easier for the public, you know, if you're throwing all this stuff like this guy was super weird, and it's like not weird that he accidentally killed himself doing this super weird stuff. They're more like
my phone book. Hang on.
Yeah, her name was just Jane Doe,
deviant dude, himself,
right? Versus if you just kind of say, well, why, Joe? You know, owning women's clothes doesn't mean that he would lock himself in a bag. What are you even doing?
Yeah, but I mean, it just, you know.
Maybe he was a bagman.
But I have one. Have you ever gone out on the web?
Well, so that's what we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Right.
Actually, right now.
Okay.
Yeah!
So let's talk about the theory that he did not do this to himself.
Ooh.
Somebody.
I mean, that he could have locked himself in the bag. He physically could have locked himself.
We've gone over that pretty
Probably.
so far. Yeah.
Yeah. But, like, why would you? And that's the thing we've been struggling with in this episode.
Well, there's a lot of things that
much.
people do that I really don't understand.
I mean...
Reality TV, for one. I don't understand why people do that.
Doing it or watching it or whatever. But,
yeah, I mean, I think it was hard enough... Watching those videos was really interesting because it was really hard for them to willingly...
It's like, oh, phone number, link, you click on that.
With some work, you could probably get somebody in a bag.
We'll sell you this phone number.
True.
You guys, yeah.
It'd be impossible to get them in the bag. Impossible.
No,
No,
course,
because
yeah.
you could, I mean, even at gunpoint, not flailing resistance, but you could just...
To call people that don't make their phone numbers readily. Don't fit. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you know,
kind of like OJ, you know? The glove just doesn't fit.
so weird. The glove just doesn't fit me. It's so weird.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know how to put a glove on or something.
My job, sometimes I have to track people down.
I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
One idea I did have, again, that kind of went back to that, like, spy obsession, was that, like, maybe for some reason somebody else was on accident even killed him. You know, that they were like, all right, we're going to do this training of let's get you in the bag and you'll train on how to get out of it. I'll let you out. Don't worry.
Oh, his chav buddy told you this is what you should do.
Well, that's actually
and
kind
bungled it.
That's kind of what I was thinking is my most...
Yeah, there we go.
Coming out.
Like today I spent some sort of a game with one or two friends, you know, and his friends were, you know, probably...
Wet work, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, okay.
Chavs.
They were chavs. Okay, they were chavs. And he's like, yeah, you know, I kind of like, you know, want to do this Houdini thing in the bag, and what do you guys lock to for work? Of course, yeah. And because they're chavs, they look at each other and snicker and say, we're going to go to the pub for a pint. It's too soon, you know, and they leave, and they come back, and he's dead. I got a number that finally wasn't disconnected, and they called and left a message. Leave.
Well, even
I
if
could totally see that happen.
Well, I mean, even if we could go with the actual theory of it really only took him like 2 to 3 minutes to suffocate in there, you know, suffocation is oftentimes a really quiet thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it could have been that they were like, okay, yeah, Gareth, we'll lock you in the bag for your big spy training thing, no problem. Sure, just, you know, give a holler when you need us to let you out or whatever.
We'll be in the other room.
Yeah, and then, you know, 20 minutes later, they're like, boy, he's been in there. So, oops. Okay, you better leave. I mean, it could really be something
likely to me.
Yeah.
That's probably what happened.
And there was the other thing that I'll bring up real quick before we go into the really fun stuff that Steve hates, is that...
Well, hello there. Welcome to
death.
At some point in his career.
And it seems like it was a more recent thing, probably within a year, maybe. I don't know if I had to guess. That former President Bill Clinton, I think it's my understanding that what he accessed was a private guest list for an event that one of Gareth's friends was invited to attend. And, like, Gareth's friend wanted to see the guest list, and so Gareth, like, hacked into the Clinton server and got the guest list.
Along with everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't, I mean, I don't...
All right, let's try it again.
Supervisor's happy, right?
No.
But also, I don't totally understand the thought process behind that, but fine. Gosh.
Okay. Or somebody wanting to have the guest list?
Well, or, you know, saying, oh, yeah, you want the guest list? Sure, let me just hack into this thing real quick and pull that for you.
Welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. It might have been somebody who was not actually in MI6.
Right, but that's what I mean, is that, like, if I'm an MI6 agent and my friend is like, hey,
Okay, pause.
So you're not going to be the only one on the blooper reel.
Well,
your supervisors probably won't be very happy with you, but you can do it anyway. I would be like,
well,
no.
You don't know that he hacked. There's nothing about hacking or anything. I mean, probably
he literally could have had access to it, but was not supposed to be accessing it through his normal.
It could have been that. Well, I mean, the thing about it is MI6 is the big thing is they probably read Clinton's emails all the time. They probably read everything.
Well,
and so that was the big dirty secret is.
Like an unauthorized access to confidential information. So you're right. It could have been.
Facts.
We're doing. Have access to.
And worst of all, shared it with the outside world.
Right. Yeah. So maybe his supervisors ordered the hit to shut him up or punish him for something.
And they did.
That's why all the clothes were there. They were like, also, we'll make it.
Sent a woman in a blue bag. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this sounds very Clinton-esque.
Yeah. NSA and FBI to surveil Russia.
Yeah, and the Ruskies did him in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's what we might know on this. It's Steve's favorite stuff.
We've heard so much Russia hacking crap lately.
I know. But most of this information...
You're not tired of it? Are you really tired of it?
Oh, I am
really?
so tired of it.
So most of this information comes from the Daily Mail and a defected KGB agent named Boris.
Of course.
So anyway, Kapikov. I don't know.
We're gonna call him Boris.
Let's call him Boris. So
Email reported that Gareth had been working with FBI and NSA agents to track cash flow out of Russia, and according to Boris.
Successor to KGB.
Was responsible for Gareth's death because they had failed to blackmail him into becoming a double agent. Again, according to already knew who the Russian spy inside of GCHQ was, and basically that they would have to kill him to keep him quiet.
What a smart thing to say to the Russians.
And Boris said that they apparently did via an untraceable poison introduced via his ear.
This reminds me of this old Jack Handy saying. Remember Jack Handy?
Oh yeah.
It says, I think if you were an Indian way back in the old days and the Spanish conquistador came. Yes, I am Joe. Sue me. Kind of a similar thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's possible. Probably the phrasing was more like I know you already have somebody in there, so no, right? I mean, still not smart.
For the love of God, the other day
I know.
Well, no.
Piss off. It's fine.
Yeah.
Go away.
Yeah.
Well, it could have been something more on the order of, and this actually does sometimes happen in the real world when.
Phone vibrated. It sounded like a phone buzz.
He goes to his boss and says, "You know what? I have proof here that we have a mole in the organization." But unfortunately for Gareth, well, the boss is the mole, and such things have actually happened in the intelligence world, and so maybe that's what did him in. But still, I don't think it was them because that's that's just not a low-profile way to do it.
But the thing is that the Russians at times can be weirdly petty about stuff. They can. Of slights. And go to some weird lengths. I was listening to something.
What happened is that in 2011.
No,
okay, so McGinsky was an accountant, I believe. He was Russian.
You thought he was a Russian lawyer. But,
he was. You're right. He was. Yeah. He was a lawyer. Duberstein, I believe is how you pronounce his name.
I think that Duberstein.
Yeah, Duberstein. That sounds better. But anyway, so he does something. Duberstein does. In the country, his lawyer's like, that's really weird. Looks into it. The Russians then arrest him, and he dies mysteriously in custody.
That's the lawyer.
That's the lawyer, yeah. So now Duberstein is like going around saying, hey, all these countries, you got to stop the Russians from doing this. And every time that he gets some country to pass the act that he is pushing, they the Russians do something in retaliation to him over in
Okay.
Scotland Yard. Like, oh yeah, no, he's a serial killer.
For the U.S. for just a little bit.
Yeah,
they did.
But they do weird.
But
like I consider it petty acts. Because,
no, they do
but they
that.
Can just,
Right. So this guy, Peter Heinrich.
Oh, Joe.
Excuse me.
Russians killed this guy, but my point is, it's entirely possible because they kind of just they're harebrained at times.
Not if it was over. Absolutely. So anyway, CHQ. I mean. Not then, because you got to do a really low-profile hit then.
Well,
you don't want to call a lot of attention to the fact that you just whacked the guy that knows the mole.
The whole mole angle didn't come out for a long time.
Yeah, and it probably was not. It probably wasn't the thing. But I mean, if the Russians whacked him, they had to have a reason for it. Okay, either he knew about a mole in GCHQ, or they tried to recruit him and he said no.
Or maybe both.
Or maybe both.
But I almost wonder.
Paul Heinrich. Excuse me. Okay, so let's start again.
Okay, Boris, you will come back.
It could be that
pick up
it
the
was
bag.
A scare tactic.
No, they were like, right, and then good accent.
Boris gets run over by a bus,
or or just forgets about it, or can't gain access to the apartment again. Suddenly, or he's like, okay, I'll be back in like 12 hours, it's fine. Or like 12 days, it's fine. And then the police come and discover it before he goes to pick up the body. And I mean,
again.
Italian now.
I don't think it'd be anything as dumb as just forgetting about it or losing the key.
No, I don't think so either.
But I can totally see where something totally unforeseen would happen. Like I said, he gets run over by a bus, and he's already, and maybe he's got the body in the bag in the bathtub, and he hasn't moved it yet, and his controller or whatever says, "Hey, did you take care of that situation?" And Boris says, Boris realizing he hasn't quite taken care of that last little detail says, "Oh yeah, it's all taken care of." Last little detail has all been taken care of as far as he knows.
Right.
But, whoopsie, it wasn't.
Yeah. Be this time of night, huh?
Yeah, it usually is.
I can go close the door and get the body.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the other thing that is like we kind of glossed over this, but it's a little weird that, it was August, but also the decomposition of the body.
Wait, do we know what the heat was turned up to?
No.
Okay. The heat was on is all we know.
But
of the night, I have woken up in August when it'd been warm and then it cooled off at night, and I shut the windows and had contemplated turning on the heat. I mean, this does happen, so it's possible that he had a heat pump or some kind of automated system that was set to 75 or whatever the equivalent is in C. But
I agree, except for that the police did bring it up as like.
And the women's clothes and anything else that they could sling at this store. Good timing, Cap.
His body was more decomposed than you might otherwise expect from that timeline. And I think it's my understanding they came up with the timeline.
Out the window at that Baskin Abercat.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, or like talking to people or being at work or whatever.
Well, what I find really funny is that you don't see a whole lot of information about is the fact that this was not the first welfare visit.
We have to go. Say goodbye.
He didn't make contact. They sent the cops over, and then they waited a full another week before doing it again. That's hinky.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's like this, it's just like there's a lot of weird stuff that's going on with this case, which is why it's such a good unsolved mystery. I always favor the Russian angle just because it's like the most fun for me as an American, as a true American citizen.
Yeah. Or not necessarily even the Russians. I mean, there's other intelligence. And a lot of the cast
North Koreans
could have been the North Koreans, but it could have been some private. This KGB. There's
Yeah,
a lot of
it was
private
the Lake
parties.
City Quiet Pills, I'm pretty sure.
was
It
the
could have been
Scots.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
there's no reason to kill him and stuff him in a bag unless you plan on moving him.
Thinking sideways.
in a bag.
Yeah.
so-
Scared of Vikings.
Unless,
It was the Vikings who did it.
well, another reason I could think this non-kinky would be if he was on a Houdini kink, or
Does not compute.
You never know.
Houdini did do stuff like that.
He
I mean,
did.
so maybe he thought he'd go all Houdini in the world. Maybe that was his hobby. Maybe he had this new hobby of
Yeah.
doing Houdini.
Seems like he would have been
stunts,
doing
you
a
know?
lot of internet searches for that, though.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, how to escape a locked bag.
Yeah.
That would
Maybe.
be the first thing I would Google.
Me
yeah.
too.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he carefully hid all that stuff.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
seems about right.
Yeah.
But not his bondage stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, not all the weird
Yeah.
stuff. but
I don't
yeah.
know. What do you?
Well, then they locked the bag for him at his behest and just left him there. Whoopsie. It's kind of stupid and sad and tragic because who knows? Maybe they could have called 911 and gotten an ambulance there and maybe saved him.
Yeah,
They could have
I
cut
mean,
him out of the bag. Devin.
Okay.
allusions to the fact that he had a lady over and they were playing some kind of kinky game, which is fine, but she may have, just as Joe said.
That's why we're talking so fast. So, without any further ado, let's get.
Oh crap, I can't get it open, which would explain why everything, either way, whether it's Joe or Eyes, would explain why things were wiped down. Oh God, I have to get out of here. I gotta get my face. So wipe the bag down, wipe the lock down, the tub, every surface that I think I came in
Yeah, but
contact
the
with,
fact that-
vacuum on the way out the door.
Yeah, the fact that he's got left no fingerprints or DNA on the lock kind of indicates to me that somebody else put the lock on.
And then
Well,
wiped
not
it
entirely
down.
because not of the lock,
Yeah.
the square of it. He could have held on to that.
Episode for you guys. Since we posted our episode about
Stand that.
why
But it's
though?
possible.
Why?
I have
Why the hell
no
would you do
idea
that?
why, unless he couldn't get his hand out of the bag enough.
I
And
wanted to bring you guys up to date on if you weren't aware of them. Okay, now, but I mean, still, why? Because I mean, at some point, the lock had to be transported over to the bag and put on the bag. Is he going to wear gloves for that? And if so, why? Claims that they have found a jetliner at the Bay of Bengal.
sweating
You
here.
know,
I have no idea. I don't know why you get into a bag.
No, it's,
Yeah.
it is. I know it's this whole thing. I understand this is a mystery that's actually been suggested to us. I don't know how many times by how many people. But I mean, it's obviously a really popular mystery because
Yeah.
it is very inexplicable.
Yeah.
It's there's none of it makes any sense. I mean,
Well, yeah.
murder makes no sense.
Yeah.
Kinky sex makes no sense. None
Yeah.
of it does.
None of it. No,
Yeah.
not a single thing.
India.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyway, they
I guess we just agree that none of this makes sense and it's
Yep.
crazy and stupid and we'll never know.
government has actually said they don't take their claims seriously. Nobody else is. If you want to go my cockeyed theory of the Russian agent or whatever agents bags the body and then there, and it really is actually. It seems like unlike diplomats, for example, got run over by a bus.
Yeah, let's do
You
that.
know, I mean that might be an angle to
Double-decker.
pursue.
Yeah, pretty
yeah.
sure.
That's
It's the
about
only
the
kind
only.
that kills people.
That's the only angle I can think of, really. Flying for a much longer period of time than it would have taken.
Does it for this mystery.
Oh damn! It's over already.
Yeah, if you want to see that video that we were talking about earlier, or some of our other research, you can go ahead and find that on our website, which is Thinking Sideways Pod. Episode lists. You can listen to the episodes. You can, I don't know, do lots of other really fun things on it too. Moving on. You can also connect with us via social media. If you want to join the group, you just have to answer the questions. They're really easy. It'll take.
Really taking it seriously. And what are they basing?
Those
Yeah.
are the questions. Yep. You can
What color
connect.
is the white rabbit?
Yeah.
You can connect with us on Twitter, where we are Thinking Sideways, and you can connect with us.
I think that their mission.
You know where you're finding us, where you're listening to us. It might be iTunes, it might be Stitcher, it might be Google Play, it might be who the heck knows what else.
Uh-huh.
And apparently, one of the ways they do it is by sniffing the air above.
Review on our show. It helps other people find us. Our iTunes reviews are going awesome, so
Are they
let's
getting
keep
better?
that up.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, by the way, upvote the 5-star reviews and downvote the 1-star reviews.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, do it, please.
And then the other way that you can reach out to us is by email, where you can just talk to us or like whatever you want to do, really. That email address is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. One.
You are the master of punditry.
Yeah.
Like, that you would expect to find at a plane crash site, like traces.
Come up with one. You can do it.
Oh, everything. Let's see. I'm going to north face it. No, that's
Nope.
a terrible
So you've
one. That's
locked it in.
No,
Ah,
that's
dang
not
it.
mine, that odor of shit.
Work on Joe's puns.
Yeah, I'm going to go pack my bags. And so anyway, I don't know exactly.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hey, this is Steve. As always, I'm joined by...
Oh, Devin.
And Joe.
And this is Thinking Sideways, the podcast.
Probably don't want to like fill everybody in on all the dirty little details of how
Got another fairly unsolved mystery, I would say. But
their claim.
They
Okay.
claim that they found this or that they found a plane crash.
Well, that's true. They found a plane crash.
Okay.
It sounds like that. I'm not on my top game today.
that's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. Before I get going into this story is a listener suggestion.
Now, I know everybody's heard about this. They decided
But I've held off because I kept going to it and then coming back to it, really trying to wrap my head around this story because it's
the reason they
Little spreadsheet of listener suggestions. It said, Steve is doing the show, right?
I know.
But like we've been looking at
playing
it.
dibs on it.
Dibs
Yeah.
it like a year ago.
yeah.
And we've just been, sitting on it and waiting.
Well,
And
because
finally-
we're in the pay of the government. That's why we've been sitting on it.
Yeah.
But the
that's
check
it.
did not arrive this month, so screw you, Uncle Sam.
Yeah. Well, regardless, I do want to say thanks to Ed who emailed this story in. It's
thanks,
definitely an
Ed.
interesting one.
Oh yeah.
And
In Marset, yeah. Or in Marset.
and he is
The Gary McKinnon?
the Gary McKinnon.
Ah, okay.
And his story,
Announced that they were highly confident.
the best we can with this, because there's a lot of UFO talk in this one.
There's a bit.
Just a little bit. Devin is
There's-
very excited.
There's a lot of, like, the whole story actually concerns. At first, it was just a series of pings that
So
Yeah.
we'll,
we don't need to go through all of his legal travails. Really.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
let's just say
let's-
he's had quite a few of them.
Yeah, but let's just start here. So the story with Gary,
The return time of the ping grew longer, and so
we're talking.
2001.
What's that?
2001.
2001.
Yeah,
That
just-
is correct.
In case any of our listeners are not aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
A few months after the World Trade Centers were attacked, a strange message appears on some U.S. Army computers, and it says, quote, "Your security is crap. I'm solo. I will continue to disrupt at the highest levels," unquote.
But they didn't know what direction the ping was coming from.
Mm-hmm. Wigged out that we've had this giant, quote-unquote, terrorist attack.
And the military is historically, their cybersecurity has sucked. I sure hope they've cleaned up their act.
I hope so, too, and we're going to get into
There's that. Just a little bit more about how they figured that out in a bit. Okay. By a guy named Cliff Stoll, S-T-O-L-L, and he was working. I can't remember what East Coast University he was at, but he discovered somebody was getting into their system. Is that there is a private intelligence organization called LigNet, and that was in the old days of basically the DARPANET before we had the internet.
Right.
And so he traced it, and he found that this guy was actually getting into their system through the computer system at a military base that was not far away that they were linked to.
Ah.
And so he was able to, by tracing it around, he actually traced this hacker to Germany. He goes to the military, he goes to, and meets with the base commander at this base and to tell him, hey. And these guys have claimed, like a colonel said, so what? Why should I care?
That's
Intelligence that indicates that the plane landed in Pakistan.
Just for clarity's sake, is Solo the hacker name, or
Oh, yeah,
was
that
it
is-
referring
that
to
is
him
it.
being-
Solo was the name that was signed to the messages that
Uh,
how terrible they were.
Okay, so it's not him saying it's just me. I am Solo.
Right, he had an identity online.
It was Solo. Okay, got it.
And Solo, who was on
worked for Ed Langley, or it might just be that they approach.
U.S. government machines, and as Joe had already alluded to, had found some really huge flaws in the security of all of their systems. Between February of 2001 and March of 2002, Solo broke into almost 100 PCs in the Army, Navy, Air Force, NASA, and the Department of Defense. Solo surfed around evidently for a couple of months.
Apparently,
And I couldn't find confirmation of this, but he supposedly brought
services like Stratfor is one that comes to mind that are actually highly competent.
taking out about 2,000 computers, taking them offline for 3 days.
Wow.
Now they say
Governmental.
there's some stuff where they say that he took out some defense network, like missile command stuff. But again, this is all landed somewhere.
Yeah, apparently
Pakistan.
their strongest
In transcripts of what the government says he did, I couldn't find it. I went to the NSA and all these places trying to find anything, and they never mentioned this guy. So it's evidently all covered up.
That's
And
probably
Freedom
not
of
something they
Information
enjoy
Acts
talking
don't seem to be
about.
uncovering exactly what they say he did.
Well, they probably don't want to get too specific either.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Now, so this all happens, and at the time, U.S. Attorney Paul McNulty,
Engineers at Boeing who have confided in them that
of all time, this is in 2002.
this is that they know of.
That
Which makes me think that, and that, when you think about it,
Well, despite being so good at hacking into their systems, Solo evidently wasn't so good at covering his tracks because they relatively quickly.
easy to hide an extra transponder or two on that thing and not bother to.
In March of 2002, to who he was, and it was a guy in the United Kingdom, in London, by the name of Gary.
And so if somebody was going to hijack a plane and take the
They
crew,
sent the United Kingdom's National High-Tech Crime Unit to arrest him. And turns out that what he was doing is he didn't have a job at the time, so he was bored. So he was just surfing around on the net, and he was spending his days, as he says, indulging his obsession with UFOs.
yeah, because he's convinced that there's all sorts of alien technology out there that we're hiding from the people. Yeah.
When he was first caught,
And the first thing that they would do if they wanted to hide the plane is they would force
do a couple of years and we'll just let you go. And he refused
every single switch for every transponder, every communication device on the
that he had discovered in order to get out. So basically, no, I've got a bigger bargaining chip. U.S. government didn't think so. They were trying to extradite him to the States.
Yeah, and it was looking like it was going to happen, but eventually the government put the nix on that.
Yeah.
It seems like the sort of thing that Boeing would have. I mean,
He's thinking about UFOs, so that's his reason for doing it. McKinnon here, he claims that the UFOs were the main reason that he hacked into their systems. And he was convinced that the U.S. government was hiding alien anti-gravity technology and devices, which he was planning to find and uncover and release for the benefit of humanity.
I just.
It slipped out by now.
United States of America has technology like anti-gravity device. We have this hidden thing, and we know where it is.
Well,
systems.
You would think.
You would think also that we would have things like floating battleships and and high energy laser devices.
Well, we
stuff
do
like
have.
that float in the air and
Yeah, no, we have those things. They're just hidden.
Oh, I see. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
That's what clouds are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So clouds are just battleships. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Something or another.
Yeah. So anyway,
Seen what's the Avengers? They hide their floating ship in a cloud constantly. I mean, that's kind of where they're going. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Sorry.
So here's a quote from McKinnon. He says, "I knew the government suppressed anti-gravity, UFO-related technologies, free energy, or what they call zero-point energy. This should not be kept hidden from the public when pensioners can't pay their fuel bills."
as you know, if you listen to our previous episode,
He was still committing a crime because he was hacking into a system.
it was in the hands of terrorists who are going to come back and rain some nuclear death on
Read the Hacker's Handbook, which evidently gave him the basis of how to do all these hacks, and he used the technique.
No,
I don't remember agreeing to that.
no, I don't think we agreed to that one.
Okay. Gain access, and he found serious access, obviously, because he kept getting in. So the question is, okay, well, if he clear thing.
Oh, yeah, we agreed to
I know I
aliens,
didn't
we?
agree to the alien one. Got to be something that he thought was such good bargaining chips. Well, one of the things he found was an Excel spreadsheet. An Excel spreadsheet that was titled Non-Terrestrial Officers.
Did he download this spreadsheet?
No,
Yeah.
he didn't.
Wow.
He just
that's a
looked
smart
at
move.
it.
He looked at it. And there's some issues with why he did some of the things the way he did, but
Well, you would think that he would have kept control. That was a no.
of U.S. Air Force personnel who weren't registered anywhere else.
Yeah.
At the end of it is broken. According to McKinnon, those were the names of ships that he didn't find listed anywhere else. Now,
Was it names like Enterprise and
the characters,
yeah? Anyway.
Yeah. Well, now the thing is, when McKinnon says that it's non-terrestrial officers, when he uses that term,
Okay.
and the first character that can be read, not saying that it's aliens or that it's humans and aliens working together. He's saying that it's humans who are on non-terrestrial based ships, so they are in space.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does when you read into it that way. But
I mean, have we not all seen the true life documentaries of Star Trek?
Yeah, and Star Wars. Yeah, no.
At an here's what happens is when he was detected, when they found him, H would be a vertical line, a photo from NASA's Johnson Space Center of what he believed was a UFO, and according to McKinnon, and this is at an angle. The photographic expert said that there was a Building 8 at the Johnson Space Center where they regularly airbrushed out images of UFOs from. It was the 9th and was able to access this department. They had huge, high-resolution images stored in their picture files, and they had filtered and unfiltered, or processed and unprocessed photos. So this is what he's saying, that this is his basis of, this is what I found, and this is obvious why it's real. He continues on. My dial-up 56K connection was very slow trying to download one of Legion.
Yeah, and I'd like to explain to our listeners one of the theories that was out.
Remote control of their desktop, and by adjusting it to 4-bit color
Here from England, they were just transferred out and sent some
pictures. It was a silvery, cigar-shaped object with geodesic spheres on either side. There was no visible scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yes and no.
Yeah, and the discovery of this stuff gave
Taken presumably by a satellite looking down on it. The object didn't look man-made or anything like what we had created because I was using a Java app.
Said that they probably didn't get relocated to the Netherlands. Correct.
My temporary internet files, and at my crowning moment, someone at NASA discovered what I was doing, and I was disconnected.
Oh, dang.
I don't know. Wait, but he got a screenshot of it, so
Yeah.
it should be on his computer.
All of his computers, of course, were seized
Sure, but
and then not returned.
So he didn't like store it on a thumb drive or something like that?
No, he didn't make copies. Evidently, he wasn't. Didn't have the
Floppy.
foresight for that.
would have been a
Yeah.
floppy, right? But not a flash drive.
No,
That's
not
good.
flash drive.
That's a good point.
Zip
yeah.
drive,
I
maybe.
forgot about
Maybe
that,
old
yeah.
zip drive. Part of the Legion that got transferred there. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But I do have an issue with the image that he says he saw when he took it to a 4-bit resolution at low send detachments. That is really, really rough. You're talking only 4 colors.
Yeah.
That is hard to see. Legion A is getting its butt kicked, and it's lost a bunch of descriptions of being silvery and smooth and not seeing rivets.
Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah. Huh?
Well, yeah, at that kind of res, it's going to be near impossible to
Yeah.
see any kind of detail. Plus, he's on such a slow connection, I can understand, it's like when, back 10, 15 years ago when you're waiting for an image to load and just line by line
I
it's
know.
showing up on your monitor
It's-
and you're waiting.
It's hard to remember those days when modems were so much.
So obviously, as we said, he got busted. In November of 2000,
Wait, I'm sorry. Is that all he found?
themselves part of the 9th Legion
Yeah.
Yeah.
pictures.
The one low, grainy picture. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Of something.
Okay.
Those are the
taken.
things that he says he found.
Now,
Okay.
he didn't say what kind of satellite photo it was. Was it a military?
Legion.
Mhm.
I don't think he knows. He found
Uh-huh.
it in a folder
Uh-huh.
that said filtered and unfiltered. And that's all he found. And filtered could have been as a group, regardless of the hole that they had,
Oh, yeah.
so that it was accurate photos and not the grass is blue and the brown buildings are red. I mean, it could have been as simple as that, but we don't know. But it could have been. But he gets busted, and he was indicted by a federal grand jury from this country, and that indictment contained 7 counts of computer-related crime, each of which had a up to 10-year jail sentence attached.
So it's not clear if the Legion itself
potentially could have been locked up for 70 years.
That's not.
ones, and that they just sent 500,000 men over to
The book.
Well, they throw so many charges at you that you reasonably, and this is I think a pretty troubling thing that they do these days.
or
1,000 men, because a legion is 5,000.
Sorry.
They'll say, well, we're not really sure, but you must be guilty of something, so we'll find him guilty of this one charge at least. So that
We'll
many
get you
charges.
for something,
Yeah,
even if it's not the right.
1,000.
Yes. Okay.
Or if
It's a little
So
bit.
much for my little editorial.
That's okay.
But yeah.
Okay, well, it took 10 years for this whole thing to be kind of put to bed because he fought for 10 years extradition
Wow.
to the States.
Yeah.
that's impressive.
Yeah, it kind of is. Now, the UK finally decided that even though they had signed what was called the Extradition Act 2003, which kind of get this. It was implemented in 2003, and it's an
Or they all went.
need to provide contestable evidence. In other words, they didn't have to provide ironclad evidence. They could just say, we have some evidence into several areas. Because here's the thing.
Guilt to extradite to prove guilt again.
Correct.
They just had to say, you might be guilty.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Interesting, okay.
We want to bring him here to put him on trial to prove if he took over And for the most part, in general, things were treaty to have in place.
Yeah.
But, everybody was panicked at that point, with the war on terror's begun, as it was called in this country. And so they were willing to do whatever they, quote unquote, had to keep everybody safe.
But I can see that this could take 10 years. I mean, just
Oh, yeah.
the argument of like him being a citizen of Scotland, right, in the UK, committing a crime that is technically
Because
was it committed in America? Was it committed, was it committed against America?
cool.
Well, of course.
It never is. You come in.
Plus,
Crazy.
The legal system grinds very slowly.
It does.
Oh, yeah.
It does. And there was a lot of high-ranking officials who just let it sit there until in 2012 it finally was addressed. Somebody was like, we just got to take care of this, and they would send small detachments because they believed that it was so likely to cause McKinnon such mental hardship that the likelihood of him doing harm to himself, also known as suicide, was too high a risk, and they said, no, we're not going to do it. So they're worried about